13 hours.
That's what I heard. I saw you with the bottle before.
Yes.
We all need something. I got to put something in here. Okay.
Sounds good.
Right on. Okay. Well, I think we're going live, which is good. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. Love it or hate it, AI has entered the arena, and we're going to talk about how AI is helping or hurting the industry. Whether or not you like to use it, do you find it helpful? Like, how are you using it? Or do we figure out how to kill this thing? So why don't we start with a round of introductions, and then just give me a one-word answer: AI, friend, foe, or something else. So we'll just start. Nick, nobody's got their names on them, so we'll just start with you, Stuart. There it is.
I'm Stuart Gross. I do villainous, characters. So I do bad people doing bad things for fun and profit, and they win. None of this redemption arc stuff. Next.
Okay, AI, friend, foe, or something else.
Yes. All of these.
Right on. Okay. Stephen Gray.
Great.
Great. What? Okay. Put me on the spot. I am Greya Moon, or as everybody knows me on Facebook, I'm Tori Newton. I am Stephen Landry's partner. Yes, to the answer.
Book coming out next year, Total Protectors. It's set in a series that I write called Stardivers. I also am the co-author of the Temple of the Storm series, Station Company Core with Jeffrey Falcon Logue, Vampire Sorcerer with Alex Etzios. In Temple of the Storm, I co-wrote with Robbie Below.
Oh, cool.
Also written a standalone LitRPG apocalyptic standalone called Pop Smoke, and a fantasy book called Tattered Banners.
Awesome. And thank you for that. So Stuart, I actually want to give you a chance if you want to mention anything on the other side of this.
Okay.
And I think we're both kind of like neutral when it comes to
AI.
Mm-hmm.
like there's both positives and negatives.
Mm-hmm. Not a simple question, is it?
No.
Aileron?
Hey guys, Aileron Kong, I write The Land. I think AI is inevitable and dangerous to us, like as a social species. Doesn't mean it has to be the end or whatever, but I do think it's different from every other technological advance, which has required us to adjust and makes new industries, ends industries. This could replace us. That's sort of the whole point of AI to a certain extent. Not this year, maybe not in 100 years, but conceptually, that's what we write about.
So like friend, foe, or oh shit?
I think oh shit. I think it's a bellwether moment that we think is cute.
Yeah. Right.
Hopefully it is. So.
Thank you. Abby?
Yeah, Abby Goldsmith, author of the Torth series. It's about a social media hive mind with warring super geniuses. And yeah, as for AI, I don't think we're seeing the beginnings of sci-fi AI. I don't think that this is it. I think that this is a false herring, and I'm against it. I don't like it. So
okay,
foe.
Yep,
yeah,
right on. Okay, and Stuart, anything to add? I didn't give you a chance to chat about books.
I'm the author of several series. I mostly do serial novellas instead of novels. So I have, my most famous book is Lewd Dungeon, but my most recent one is called Reborn as the First Boss.
Cool. Okay, thank you. So first question is AI is all over the place. We're seeing it everywhere. It's creeping up in every single thing we do. Hell, it's incorporated with Word, Google Sheets, it's popping up. So obviously you've had to have used it if you're, I think, connected in any way. So, and I'll start probably with you, Abby. Have you used AI in your writing in any way, shape, or form? And if so, what do you use it for? Or are you like, I'm taking a stand?
Yeah, I mean, of course, everyone uses spell check, but I don't think that counts as what people are talking about with generative AI. No, I do not use it. I would never use it for art. I would never use it for writing. I wouldn't use it for brainstorming. I like to be creative. I would never outsource that part of my process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aileron, how about you? What do you think? Or do you rather?
So I mean, similarly, like I use spell check, which didn't even occur to me would be AI, but obviously that is. If I want to think of a different word, like as opposed to he said, sometimes like as opposed to said, there's like a list of words, and I'm like, oh, that's a better word, so that's using AI, I guess, right? I hate the concept because I really value like what I'm doing as far as the creativity, and it feels like it replaces me. So like nobody really likes that. But again, I think the main thing about AI is that it is an inevitability, and the sort of the best thing is about how do we guide it to get benefits and not completely replace us and undermine society more than it has. But honestly, that's just not really a dragon I'm trying to slay. I'm trying to slay like the goblins. Like this is something that's gonna happen, I guess, is sort of how I feel about it. You know?
Got you. Okay. And Gray, how about yourself?
Okay.
Or either one of you. Like you guys are a team, so feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
You want the short answer or the long answer?
The interesting answer. The interesting answer. And like, okay, and so far we're like, oh, you know, like let's be very blunt, right? AI is not going away, you know. So please be bold.
Specifically with writing, no AI. Unless you do count, and I do honestly count like Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid, like because those are AI programs. Marketing, TikTok, putting together video reels, all that stuff. When you put together pictures and it puts it with music, that is actually a form of AI. Even just marketing and setting up stuff so that the algorithm will grab hold of something, you're playing with AI. So that's kind of the writing aspect. The other aspect that we have is I do D&D, and one of the things I love to do to enhance stuff for my players is if I'm create a monster and I can't find a picture of it, I have gone and I have generated a monster to throw into a chat or something to enhance the game.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm kind of neutral on it for the simple fact of I look at it as we have grown with technology, all the time it is advancing, and every time it has advanced, everybody has pushed back on it. So like with cell phones or computers or anything.
Any technology, right? Digital, any kind of brown,
digital art.
Yep.
Like all of it, has had pushback because with so many tools that we use, there's always a right and a wrong way to do it, or the good versus the bad. And so I don't support like the AIs that use artists work in order to generate those images, but I don't use that kind of stuff. So I think it's one of those things where we're going to have to just learn to work with it in the proper way.
And also, like as a graphic designer, we've had fill tools and different generative content tools in graphic design programs like Photoshop and Illustrator for over a decade now. Right. And they're basically they did do the same thing, except now it's all scaling upward. The biggest issue I think is that it's scaling upward in a way that is not consumer friendly. It's not personal, and it's starting to take away aspects that make us human, that make us creative. And when you do that with AI, that's a big no.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly an aspect of boiling the frog here. Like, yeah, exactly. Like you've got, a circle and like, oh, I'm going to use paint and fill that. Like, how does it know how to do that? And like, as it keeps creeping outward in like spell checker, as it starts creeping outward and and whatnot. So I think that's a really good point. Stuart, how about yourself?
Sorry,
I don't
Oh yeah,
use,
no, please, no. Aileron, if you want to jump in and interject, keep it open.
like,
Sorry, Stuart, I want to get
Steven.
your whole thought before we go.
No, I'm saying Stephen?
Steven.
Steven.
Yeah, so honestly, I feel like you touched on one of the things that I feel like is the pivotal point. At every moment, there's always pushback of like, oh, this is horrible. Oh, this is going to be whatever we're talking about. But do we reach a bellwether moment where it's not the same pushback simply because it's such a qualitative change? It's such a massive shift. And I agree, this is not the rise of, Skynet or whatever. But this is the first steps of it where it's not just word coming out or computer tech jobs rising, so coal miner jobs like shift. It's such a massive potential change of replacing people rather than allowing for new growth of people. And that's sort of the question for me. And
that
to me,
also
the
comes
definition
with
of AI
the
is
corporate aspect too. Like you have all these corporations that are the ones pushing AI. And
Right.
that in itself, they're wanting to replace people, and you shouldn't want to replace people. You should want to improve people's lives.
So let's put a pin on that. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off. My apologies, just because I do want to get Stuart, and then I also want to get Mike to introduce himself since he's joined in as well, because I think we're gonna get kind of passionate about this. Stuart?
all right. I don't use AI beyond like spell check and that kind of stuff in my work. The only times I would consider using it would be like using something for a storyboarding idea. Like, here's a plot idea, and then I go and actually write the story. Or I would use, for on the graphic side of things, I use it to say, here's a cover idea. Here's what I would like the cover to basically look like, and then send it to a cover artist as a reference image. That's one way that you can use it without abusing it.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Okay, Mike, quick introduction, and then please let us know AI, friend, foe, oh crap, or something else.
Yeah, of course. Hey guys, sorry I'm late. I had a little family emergency, but I am here now. And I am author of the Primal Age series. My second book actually dropped today, so
Ooh, congrats.
yay. And I'll drop that on the chats in case anybody wants to check that out, so feel free to do that. But yeah, I'm actually pretty AI friendly, not for writing stories, but I do think that it is a huge tool, and just like any tool, it can be abused and it can be used for good. And I believe that AI can be used for good, especially for indie authors. There's a lot of costs associated with publishing books and creating novels that a lot of people don't take into account. Like Stuart said, cover creation. My covers themselves are AI generated by myself, and obviously I do my own wording and everything like that for the cover, and I obviously edit it and make it what I want to. But it's a huge saving cost for me. Being an indie author, like I can't dish out a couple $100 every single time I'm trying to put out a book, especially if I'm going to try to be writing quickly and profoundly so that I can get a lot of content out. And the same with editing. That's probably the biggest cost for indie authors: editing and proofreading. And AI is such a helpful and useful tool for those of us who just we really can't afford to pay $1,000-$2,000 for proofreader and editor to go through our work, and it helps us get it to a place where it's actually passable for people to actually read and enjoy. So I'm a very big proponent for AI. Again, it can be abused, but I think the fear of AI is coming from a place of fear of authors being replaced, of proofreaders and editors being replaced, of graphic designers being replaced, because eventually the way that AI is moving, it has moved in the last 2 years, it's probably going to be replacing a lot of these important jobs in the next I'll probably say in the next 5 to 10 years. So, again, we just have to be responsible in how we use it and be straightforward and, upright to our audience and everybody. And look, we use these tools. The story still comes from us. So, you still have that authentic story. But yeah, sometimes people just don't understand costs associated and, the tools that we use sometimes to help with, being able to get these stories out to everybody.
So, Mike, I'm really, really glad you're here because I think you're going to get beat up a little bit in this.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure, for sure.
Stick to your guns. Stick to your guns. Because like it is such a complicated question, you know. And so, like you brought up something somewhat dear to my heart. So, my daughter is going to design school. She's kind of a creative. She does work, you know, and she looks at AI and she's like, "Oh, crap." You know, and it's like people are like, oh, I don't want me as a creative to be replaced. But I'm going to go ahead and use this to come up with some ideas for artwork. And so I'm going to get my book cover done with AI because that's different. That's not me, right? But an artist might be saying something different. So, yep, it looks like you've got something to say there, Stephen.
That comment that just came up, AI leading to eugenics, that is a worst case scenario thing, in my opinion. That is one of the things I really fear happening. Because what I would like to see with AI is a push for more creativity and more people who don't have access to things and people that are disabled being able to get their thoughts and their process out there more. So hopefully, just with that comment that came up, that doesn't.
There's plenty, I think, of great areas for AI that are going to do wonderful. Like, if you look at how London is dealing with water drainage and quality of water, AI looking for that stuff. So I think we can let's move that aside. There's, I think, we're talking really when it comes to the writing process. And so, does anybody think, hey, AI needs to stop here? You know, but it's okay up to here. Like, again, coming back to what Mike mentioned was, hey, sometimes I use, you know, Midjourney or something like that to create some cover art, you know, or maybe I just come up with some ideas and I give that to an artist. But that feels a little bit like, and I'm being contentious, a slippery slope.
It's like I said, Robert, like, you know, like that old adage, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, that's exactly what AI is, right? I mean, we have to be responsible in how we use it. But again, it's just such a helpful tool as well to be able to get through so many roadblocks that a lot of indie authors, you know, encounter in their journey, you know, to publish a novel.
Elron, looks like you were going to say something.
It seems like, honestly, the the line is generally how much it affects you, right? I mean, so like, I get it. I believe in like that old like adage of you're not an honest person if you're the only person not cheating at the poker table. You're just a sucker. Technology is inevitable, and more people are using it. I don't like it because I'm in this industry and it's what I'm doing. But if I was just a consumer of my books and it's like, well, it's taken forever for book 9, and I can just type in where is book 9 and then it clears it out. Like, that's not where we are right now. But is there any reason that wouldn't be where we are if you fast forward a day, a year, 10 years? I don't think anyone here would like it then. And, you know, I also get, though, that there is a threshold of, I'm like, okay, so yeah, I don't want to use AI to make a cover, but I can afford to pay somebody to make a cover. And if somebody can't afford that, then I'm like, oh, well, you don't get to play. Or even if we take it further, where it's like, what if there was a certain threshold for covers, and traditional publishers are like, oh, so you don't have the 50,000, you don't get to write a book. I get that argument too, but I honestly think the problem, anyone that doesn't have a problem, is because it's not really hitting you that hard yet. And graphic designers that heard you, Mike, would probably have a real problem with that. I'm not recognizing it. Again, it's inevitable.
I think like you said, Alan, unfortunately it's inevitable. And like, we have to, as writers, you know, we have to adapt and we have to understand that this is happening whether we like it or not, right? There is this AI company called Suno AI. You can create a perfectly sounding song, like a country song, techno song, whatever you want to listen to, you know. So audiobook, you know, that aspect, AI audiobook is going to be coming soon anyway as well. So we just have to adapt and understand. And I know I'm going to be dinged a lot for my comments, but I'm a realistic and a pragmatist. I'm a pragmatist. So
Stuart, you were going to say something. Mike, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to get to Abby too, because Abby, you've got a very fine a line there, and I want to hear your thoughts. So Stuart, first you.
Going back to the bit about, you know, I don't have $200 to spend on book covers. Like, there's a lot of cheap, you know, book covers you can get through Fiverr, or you can use Amazon's cover creator with their stock photos. One of my best-selling cover, you know, the book I got pretty much went viral on was using a stock photo from Amazon's KDP cover creator. and I've used that for all 30 something titles in that series so far. So there are a lot of other options besides, going with the AI art.
Okay. Abby, you've been a bit quiet.
Yeah, I mean, as far as covers go, I've asked artists on DeviantArt and ArtStation for permission to use their work, and they've very nicely given it to me for some of my book covers. But I mean, aside from that, like, I'm going to say, like, of course, there's no stopping technology. There's no stopping capitalism. There's no stopping, like, all kinds of things. Like, the world progresses. One person isn't going to be able to make a difference. Yes. But I do think this is a net loss for humanity. If we decide to just, like, outsource creativity, outsource art, outsource writing to a derivative machine that's basically plagiarizing everything and copying everything, it gets staler and staler. Give it 10 years, give it 50 years, give it 100 years. And, there are kind of artistic dark ages in human history. And we could be heading right into one right now.
I think that's a really interesting point that, like, yeah, it's kind of scary what could happen there. So somebody, Jay, he made a comment here. It's sounding to me that the genre, here it is, AI is not a good thing, generative AI specifically, but a supportive use of it, like spell check, finding a list of alternative words, is susceptible. Would you agree to that? Like, we need limits on this to make it okay to play, or, once it's in the room?
I don't think you can limit it. Like, my only real pushback against what I'm hearing you say, Mike, is that it's like, well, sucks all around. That's sort of like the impression that I'm getting, which I get, but at the same time, it's like, isn't the whole way that we would define ourselves is how we hold ourselves accountable, which is not arguing one way or the other. It's just that, like, the argument should just never be like, well, fuck it. Because it sucks anyway. Like, or like life isn't fair. I think fair was a 4-letter word when I was growing up. You should never expect the world to be fair to you, but what we're interfacing out is the accountability that really, really matters. But then on the other side of the story, you're saying you're using the content creator on Amazon. I am sure I could swing a dead cat and find an artist somewhere that thought that was basically the same thing as what we're talking about now.
Right. Slippery slope.
I mean, really. And, like, photo generation and anything else. Yeah, it's not the same thing, but I guarantee you I can find artists that are so resentful of that and how it impacted their market share that they're like, it's basically the same thing. So, and again, a lot of it seems like what is impacting us personally.
So there was an interesting discussion going on. I don't know if you guys are aware, in the US, there was a dock worker, like these guys that unload shipping containers that went on strike recently. And their whole complaint was, hey, they make good money relative, right? Like 60, 70, 80, 120, depending on overtime. And their complaint was they're being replaced by robotics. And then they showed a larger port with just purely automated in China, and it was hyper efficient. Now, we might be able to argue, well, this is supply, this is goods, this is moving the economy along. But one might argue, well, I just want entertainment, and I don't care if it's Abby or Aileron or Rob or an AI. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so that's almost the same adage when our architects used to design drawings and things on huge slabs of paper in a big warehouse. You would see there's these old pictures that you can see of that. That's before CAD was invented, right? Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that the technical expertise to use that new innovation, that new technology is gone. Like, they had to adapt and overcome. And now they're very knowledgeable into using that. And, like, when it comes to, like, cover designs and stuff, I mean, it is getting so much more and more popular to use AI to help you develop covers and things like that. I mean, there's a great AI covered artist that I know a lot of artists have used. His name is Eno. You can follow him on Discord. He makes beautiful covers. But again, people just have, I don't know. I feel like there's just such a distaste with AI, and I'm not trying to bash on anybody, but I just really feel like times are changing and things will just innovate and update, and we just have to adapt to that.
Okay. I think
just like we always have.
Okay, really quick. I look at it this way. Yes, AI and technology is always going to develop. But here's the thing. We are humans. We are creative beings in and of ourselves. There will always be a demand for the personal human touch. That is the way I look at it. Because a computer, yes, could copy anything that I draw to a T, but it does not have the same type of soul in that project as I do. So my point to that is
also, I see a lot of people mentioning like stock photo sites, Fiverr, all that. So much of that. Okay, I graduated with my bachelor degree in graphic design in 2006. Fiverr started to become really popular just after that. The company I work for started outsourcing graphic design. I lost my job. That was one of Fiverr itself was one of those huge shifts where something, a logo or typography, where it used to be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, became $5-10.
mm-hmm.
A lot of Fiverr artists are in other countries where the cost of living is different. But then now we also have like the Adobe. If you get on Adobe stock or KDP, so much of it is AI, and it's getting to the point where you really cannot tell. So
right. It's getting so good at it.
Options, but and you may not know you're using AI, but you are.
So like when you look at, Midjourney, so there's some lawsuits, class action suits coming up around Midjourney, because like you can go to Midjourney and say, hey, make me a picture of, I don't know, a Viking sitting on a camp, and I want it in this artist's style. Right. And I don't know, I've never tried this. Actually, I should have, but like write me a short paragraph about a character, and I want you to do it in like Terry Pratchett style or Douglas Adams. Like, I wonder how it is. And so what does that mean from an IP perspective and copyright? Like we're potentially being copied. Any thoughts?
That's where we burn it down.
Yeah, I mean that's
where the line absolutely needs to be drawn.
Yeah,
it's a plagiarism machine.
Yeah,
And, yeah,
it is, isn't it?
100%.
A lot of the problems with generative AI right now are because they trained them on people's works and they're not paying them, the people, for the works, and they're doing the same thing with writers as well, which is how they train up these generative AIs. They feed a whole bunch of shit in there, and that's
I remember it was about a year ago. There was a website you could get on as an author and look to see if your work had been stolen, taken. I'd had both my books and my artwork, because it was on ArtStation. It was taken from and used to train AI processors. And it's not just Midjourney. There are other AI programs out there that do the same thing. There are also AI programs out there that do not do that, but are trained on stock websites. But then you have the issue now of people uploading AI images and flooding stock image websites with AI images, and they're getting trained on those.
So here's a question in the chat. So can the ordinary person, it's from Nicole, can the ordinary readers recognize between AI and generative covers, human created, soul, like this kind of thing? So like for me, sometimes I'm like, well, I kind of start to wonder, like when you're reading something, if it has, like, what do you guys think? Can you recognize it? Can your readers recognize it?
I mean, there's always going to be people who are too stupid to understand the difference. Like there's always going to be that least common denominator.
I would not say they're stupid at all. I think it's just
but but a lot of the AI art out there is like, this person is hanging a shield off his dick apparently, because he has both hands up and there's shields just hanging right in front of him. So
when it's obvious. Okay, Abby, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so like Steven, I come from an art background. I drew that. I went to Cal Arts as an animator. I spent a ton of time animating. I have friends that work in TV and film animation. A lot of them are being replaced. Now, I'm going to say I cannot tell the difference sometimes. Like,
Better and better.
Yeah, it's. I do not think that this is a matter of like, well, it's an ethical matter, really. Like, I mean, I think it's a net loss for humanity for people to have just endorse a plagiarism machine that is out of control. I mean, yeah, it's good. It's a good plagiarism machine. It's really good at what it does. It does fool most people. It fools artists. It fools everyone, and it's getting better at it.
And
But,
I think there was even somebody did some music and they had something composed by AI versus something composed by humans, and the AI actually in some genres actually won out. So here's a question for everybody, unless somebody has a dying need, but who here, and just raise your hand, who here doesn't think AI is here to stay? Like, oh, it's a phase, it's going to go away. Does anybody here think it's going away? No. So the only thing we can do is think about what it means for us, our craft, and people coming in. So now I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit to, so then how do you recommend to others to either protect yourselves or equip yourselves or leverage, AI? Does anybody have, kind of a thought they'd like to throw out there?
I would like to start. Honestly, I think at this point it should start at the teenage level. I think that schools and us as a society, we need to actually start training our eyes to look for that kind of thing.
Okay. All right.
Also,
so you're like, it's an education at the fundamental.
Right.
Yes.
And I would like to add to that, there are you'll see TikToks or Reels or something, and in those videos, they have what's called a watermark. It labels that video. It doesn't necessarily stop that creator's work from being copied and used, but it's there. So if they wanted to pursue a lawsuit against that person or get it to take down, they can. And I think that same technique should be applied to writing and
generative AI. Right. So what I'm hearing, so my question is really we know it's coming. So how do we prepare ourselves? So what you're kind of saying is, hey, what we need to do is we need to ensure that there's baked in protections for authors and other creatives across the board. Okay. Yes. Bringing it a little bit closer, Aileron, I'm sure you've got some opinions here, and I see you've got your mic off. What are your thoughts?
This is already happening with Keanu Reeves, right? He writes it into every single contract. You cannot use my digital likeness. I agree with Abby. Ultimately, this is going to be a moral and societal issue. It's going to cost us way more than we think. And honestly, the best example I can give is for anybody that's traveled and eaten food outside of the U.S., after you've done it for a lifetime and you see how different you feel a week later, you're like, why the hell do I feel so different? It's food. I mean, kinda, until you eat abroad and then you go back and you realize it's not food. And also that the obesity rates have increased from 13% to 41% in the past 30 years since the cigarette companies bought most of the food and producers in America.
Sugar is not addictive, Aileron. Sugar is not addictive.
It's a whole thing. And so who would have thought that you're going to have half of the population having those kind of health related issues now? As a physician, that was 99% of what I admitted to the hospital. Right. That was not going to be a thought process of when the Marlboro company bought Kraft, but it did happen that, and it tracks exactly the same thing. There's going to be other consequences, I believe. But for today, it seems like it's more of a financial issue. The protections that we're talking about is making sure that people can eat. That's really what we're talking about. Is okay, well, we're making a cover with AI, so that means that there's an artist that can eat. That's what we're really talking about, finances more than anything else today. Because I don't think anyone really usually has time for people that are this is the downfall of society, whether they're right or wrong. So it should be a financial protection. If you want to put something out, put a watermark on it. Doesn't stop it, does something. Maybe they want to mess with somebody else's guy. I don't know. But it is inevitable. It's here.
Some great comments. Yeah, some great comments coming across the stream as well. I mean, it is impacting, as JD said there, right? It was the Writers Guild. They're going on strike, and obviously because they see this coming, it is inevitable. So then my question, and I'm wondering, Mike, you might even touch on this, is so what do aspiring writers do? If you think about it, we can actually make this an economic thing. like you could say, hey, but there's some people that make like almost no money, and so they're willing to work 100 hours to write books and make a lot less money for me than I want to make, and they can go out and do this. Well, okay, I'm going to use AI to help me actually become more efficient. And like I think to maybe Mike's point is, hey, I
in the sweatshops making $3 an hour.
Because there you go, right? There you go. And we don't want that, obviously. But like, so how do you think, besides that, like, let's create a movement, which there have been petitions that we signed on, we need to protect ourselves from AI. It absolutely needs to be there. And as you're saying, it could be as big as the way food is doled out in America. I mean, like, it's like, you're absolutely right there. Mike, how do we bring this, though, to authors and say, look, it's here to stay, and here's the things that you should be doing? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it would become it'd have to be a cultural shift, almost like what Aileron is saying. I mean, even now when you're publishing a book on Amazon, it asks you, like, have you used AI in, like, let's say, in your writing or like translation and stuff? You have to disclose that. I mean, if you're being honest, right?
Yep.
So like the publications and places that we publish are already looking into that. And again, also, laws would have to be passed for like copyright and things like that. But I just don't see that happening anytime soon. Not with AI outpacing everything else that is going on in the world. But yeah, it would just have to come down to the authors themselves. Like, how far are you willing to use AI to, I don't know, get what you want, right? If your goal is just to make a ton of money and pump out books every, like, let's say 2-3 weeks, I mean, is it our purview to say, like, no, you can't do that? Or are the books just going to suck because there's no soul behind them, right?
But that's where I think that tell is
the AI to write copy paste books that suck. There have been porn artists doing it on Amazon for decades that have their little books that are $3.50, and they are the same damn story every single time with the names changed. And it's the same thing. You say, oh, this is that author. I know exactly what the ABC, that's how it's going to go. That's not an AI thing. That's your cheap and crap thing.
Let me offer this. I heard an author, he was talking about AI, and he was saying he wanted to do some quick research on a culture, and then he wanted to come up with some naming. It was on a particular culture. I think he was creating cities, or I don't remember what it was. And he was like, I threw that into AI, and like the depth of research that it pulled out. Like, back in the day, you had a typewriter or you're writing with a pencil, and you're doing your own research. And I've got like freaking books from the 1800s because I was like, I'm going to do my original research. And then somebody's like, oh yeah, hey, Chat GPT, why don't you get me this information over here? And bam.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they're smarter than me because they're using a tool where I'm doing it by hand.
I hope they're fact checking that.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Well, I mean, but what's the difference between looking on Google for that and putting in Chat GPT?
Yep.
I mean, what is the difference? You're still believing something that you're getting from a site. Like, I get why we don't like it for those, but like, what is the difference? And ultimately, like what Mike was saying about passing legislation is true, but like, it's not going to happen. You just need to look at Zuckerberg walking in front of Congress with a bunch of people that are as old as our grandparents who don't understand cell phones, let alone Facebook, to think that now these same legislators are going to stop AI or understand what the word means. No. So
my claim to fame in writing, because this is I'm working on my first book, finished off the first draft, but my claim to fame is I actually helped write the 5G strategy for the U.S. that went back when Trump was president. And I had to write it for congressmen. And if you guys have ever written for a congressman, holy crap! You got to dumb that stuff down. And I think you nailed it. But I saw a comment run through by Nicole, and it was something to the effect of, I think some people don't mind paying extra for organic food, and like human. Right there, so there is this premium to human. Back in the day, Rolls Royce, like our cars are handmade. Now, maybe that's not so sellable now, but do you think there's a place where it's like, okay, we're surrounded by AI, but I actually want a heart behind this, and I'm willing to pay extra for that?
I mean, it's going to have to be an underground market at some point.
Dang, Abby,
that's
so
right.
You're writing dystopian future stuff.
I am.
Right.
I am. Yeah.
Okay, but like if you can come out and say, okay, sorry, I think you're going to say something, Greg.
Yeah. So here's the biggest thing that helped me curbing my anxiety about this, because I myself am an artist, but I don't use like computers and all that stuff. I'm the more physical artist. And so my whole thinking is that, yes, we are going to have this spew of just generated images and all of this stuff, but the real human aspect of it, it might become a rarity. Okay, yes. But we as humans, and that's what I was talking about with the soul, we as humans are going to more appreciate the stuff that an actual somebody else of our race made versus, oh, I can just do this on a computer.
I think you've got a very good point. And here I had an interesting conversation. A friend of mine helps run AI at Google. And he and I were having a conversation because he flew out last year to Author Nation when it was 20 books. And his whole point was like, Rob, you're trying to become a writer. You're screwed, dude. Like, why? Because you don't have a brand. And so like his thought was like, Aaron, you've got a brand, right? Abby, you've probably got a brand. You have brand recognition that is a human brand. So going back to where I wanted to hopefully like lead the conversation is like, how do authors now actually protect themselves and thrive in a world surrounded by AI? I think, maybe creating a brand around a personality, a person, a human, and having that, and that might be having some. Stuart, looks like you got something to say.
Yeah. Well, my whole brand is bad guys doing bad things for fun and profit, and they win with no redemption arcs or anything like that. And I started on Royal Road, putting stuff out with that brand and building that brand, and so people know me as the guy who does villainous MCs.
Yep, I want Stuart's story, right? Because I know what I'm getting.
Yeah, so that's one way to combat it. The other way is to, help petition people to petition Amazon to make sure that they throw anything with the AI tag in the, below the porn dungeon. That's just my thought.
Royal Road does that. Like there's a tag there, right? And people don't like that. Oh yeah, never mind. And they're going to move on. So anybody else have a comment on that? So the human brand, what do you think?
I completely agree. But I also want to throw this out there. I think it's up to us as creatives, as creators, to guide the next generation, because they're the ones that are growing up with this. They're the ones that are like her nephews, they're at the stage now where they're just getting on social media and everything, and they're seeing it all firsthand. And we need to teach ourselves and others, don't just take the shortcuts. We have to show them that there is something special about creating something by hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, The Incredibles, or if everyone is special, no one is. Right. So if everyone's just generating content at the press of a button, the stuff doesn't have any value. Indie creators will lose out because, you're just another person spewing out something at the push of a button. They don't know the difference. That's a problem for everyone, for all of society.
So it does kind of come back to that fundamental level.
To push on the other side of that, at some point in time, blacksmiths were like, don't industrialize. What I make is better. And I don't know if I would trust something made by a blacksmith for every case that didn't come out of a standardized factory at this point in time. I'm not arguing for AI, but I do see the corollaries between those two things.
I could give an example of that with art now. I spend thousands of dollars on art for my books and stuff that people will never even see. And a couple of times I have been in contact with artists. They've done the work, but I've looked at the quality, and I know it's not them giving their best compared to another project that they've done for the same amount of price and time, where they didn't give themselves to it.
Yeah, but Stephen, what happens when AI is in, like I say, 5 to 10 years, way better at making images or designs or whatever than any human could ever be,
right?
And you can do it by yourself. What do you do at that point?
Also, in that same aspect, back to the blacksmithing thing, we value and we celebrate those people who take the time to actually learn that craft. Like, I crochet. It physically right now, it is impossible for any machine to do what I do. Okay? They can copy knitting, they can copy cross stitch, all of that, but they cannot copy the way somebody crochets. It's the same with, we value the stuff that we look at and we may not be able to do, but we see somebody else do it. And it's that whole branding thing. It's that, show me what you bring to this table. Because I can go generate that image, or I can go generate that story, or I can go generate that film. But in that same aspect, if you show your process, you show and give your heart into this, people will see that and they will value it more than they will value any computer.
How will they see you? Like, you're going to be lost in a flood.
Not necessarily.
We do have like local art. We have stuff when it comes down to like the community level as well. I mean, yes, it might be harder to become a big seller, but when it comes down to branding and style and finding your niche, when you find your people, you can build a community around that.
So it's, again, back to that brand
going
side,
back
right?
to the thing with blacksmiths, Renaissance fairs exist, and a lot of blacksmiths make some decent money,
right,
selling at Renaissance fairs.
So let me. Sorry, I'm just going to make one little comment before you say something there, Elron. The highest price paid for an AI generated artwork at an auction was $432,000, and it was AI generated. It was the portrait of Edmund de Bellamy or something like that, like literally. So people.
Correct me if I'm not wrong, but wasn't that an NFT? And
it wasn't. It is, of course, right? It has to be an NFT, or else you can do it again.
Essentially, kind of, depending on how you look at it, but they're essentially like a money laundering kind of.
Okay, so it's money laundering. Well, that's expensive art, anyways, right?
Okay,
I mean, sorry,
that's good. I mean, that's a totally different segue, but like most of the actual art gallery world is also about moving dirty money.
Yeah.
So
so true.
You invest in something, an object that has a lot of value, so you have a physical representation or a digital representation that you can then later part ways with.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. It's emotions and value that we're talking about. We feel like this is worth more. If I was talking to my friend and they were like, "Oh, I think this is worth a lot," I'm like, "Okay, cool. I really like it, and it matters. And you matter to me, so I'm going to say it's worth it." On a very analytical and just sort of how I view the world working, something is worth what you can get someone to pay for it.
Bingo.
And when we go beyond that to then try to change hearts and minds based on our impassioned pledge, well, yeah, if you're really nice and pretty and have a following and are popular or anything else that increases your quote unquote value, then yeah, your words have more value. Beyonce just sold whiskey. I've never seen her drink whiskey before, but if she sold
everybody's
selling tequila. If
right?
Anything her brand has a value. And again, that's just bringing us back to money. And that's all it really comes down to.
Mike was mentioning, like, in 10 years' time, when you absolutely can't tell the difference, you still have people's personal brands. I mean, I know I have my own style of writing that isn't like anybody else's, isn't like yours, isn't like hers. And my readers can tell by that.
This is you, right?
It's about when you're growing in a creative field, you start to create, whether you know it or not, your own signature.
So two things on that, if I may. So Abby, I think, made a very interesting comment earlier, which was, the dark ages. So when we look at AI coming in, so because to your point there, Stephen, I would argue that AI, when you look at training AI models, will get so good at mimicking you specifically that, like, and that's why, like, there's even, I think, some models that are like literally letting people use their image in an ad that they're not in. So I think that's even going to be hard unless you have a personal connection. So, but back to what I think Abby was kind of going towards is like, there's going to be a period of time where it's going to really suck for some of us, because it is going to be a little bit of let's just take some chlorine and wipe it across your soul. So again, like, what do you do? Like, I kind of, the way I think Mike was talking was, well, we freaking leverage this and we produce stuff and we cost down and we create more content. We try to keep our soul in it and we leverage it as tools. Is there some like logic to that, do you guys think? Or is Mike just a complete sellout? Sorry, Mike.
No, I agree. It can't be black and white anymore. Pandora's box is open,
It's
and
open.
now it's up to us, especially as content creators, as writers and artists, to guide it. And if that means tearing apart parts of the framework, watermarking everything, putting in safeguards, we have to take the necessary steps to make sure that it gets to a place where it is not controlled by corporations, where it is not just forced on us.
Amazon overall. Yeah. Abby?
I mean, like there's always going to be somebody who's faster than you and releasing more books than you, always. And
I met Sean earlier today. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, not necessarily people in this convention, not naming names, but yeah, I mean, we all know there's always somebody faster than you, no matter how fast you are, and that's just going to keep increasing as AI gets more and more prevalent. So, my approach is I don't play that game. I'm not in the rapid release game anymore.
Okay.
I still write at my pace, which is faster than traditional publishing, but I am not going to try to compete with the one book a month people. Yeah.
Aileron, you've got quite the brand going for you, right? Like, I mean, like you're one of the first guys I read. You've been in the game for a while. So like, what's your play?
My own sort of approach, I mean, like you can definitely see that like I've massively slowed down for personal reasons, health, family, I wouldn't be in the book a month because I couldn't be in the book a month at this point. Like I did that. That was great. It was this wonderful halcyon time. That's not what I want from my life. There are definitely authors that are basically making AI books. That is happening. I can't stop that from happening.
Right.
I've talked about how I don't like it on a personal thing, how I don't like how it's going to impact our society long term. Completely agree with Abby there. And how I don't like, even like when I was initially first making my group, I was like, don't come in here and ask what a LitRPG is. So I was like, I don't want everyone churning out the same crap LitRPGs. I mean, I could have saved myself that headache because AI is here. But like, if we're talking about it on a moral thing, I've shopped at Target. How am I very different from someone that, like, aren't I part of the problem of putting out the mom and pops out of business? Is that, I mean, is
If
that
you got an
really
Amazon account or a
different?
Walmart.
Exactly. I mean, I sell everything on Amazon. I'm part of putting, and I personally think Amazon has forgotten they sell books. So I certainly don't think they're going to be, I mean, like we're such a small part of their market.
They're offering up AI narrators now. Aaron, you can get an AI narrator.
They were asking me to do it, and I was like, I don't want to do it, and they kind of pushed it like 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But again, I have a brand, as you said. I can afford to pay a very good narrator. I think everyone should continue to support creatives, but I'm talking from a place of privilege, which I have to be honest about as I'm having this conversation.
Sure. I also want to say, like, and especially in our community, we have like publishers like Podium, Tantor, Royal Guard, who will help with like the audio and stuff like that. I know that my stuff would never go to audio with AI narration, and I have been fortunate that Podium have picked me up and been able to offer my books on audio.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
What about translation though? How do you guys feel? Is it a moral argument to use AI as translation? You're not creating anything, you're just translating it.
If you're selling it, no. Pay a translator. Otherwise, if it's like the fan translations of light novels and mangas that you'll see, on the internet, for those aren't monetized. Go for it. If it's the fan translation or if there's an official translation, no. Like, don't monetize the thing.
Okay,
AI
guys, I'm sorry. We've got 6 minutes left. And there's a couple things I'd like to do. Number one, I would like, this is a really good conversation. And I like we need more people on both sides of the fence because this is something that is so important to all of us. Okay, but number one, I want to hear what you're working on and where can we find you. And then like if you've got some parting words on the AI subject, because we're not going to finish it here, throw it in, but just keep it down to like just about 1 minute if you would. And so I am going to start with Abby because she's on the far corner.
Yeah. Well, I can be found at abbygoldsmith.com, and I'm currently writing a epic fantasy series on my Patreon. I post every Sunday, and that's about it. My Torth series has 2 books coming out in 2025. Y'all know where I stand on AI.
Right on. Okay. Stephen?
So I am currently working on Monster Monday, which is a horror death game lit RPG on my Patreon. I also do Werewolf Wednesday, which is a kind of backrooms lit RPG that's set in the Stardivers universe. We have a book coming out next year called Total Protectors set in the Stardivers universe. I can be found on Amazon as well as patreon.com/Stephen Landry.
Okay, great. Elron, I'm going like this.
Hi guys, I'm Elron. I write Land and God's Eye and Alpha. I'm working on book 9 of my first series and book 2. More than a link to me though, I feel like AI is about human connection, and so I recommend that everyone watch Blue Zones on Netflix. It's been very pivotal for me and my friends, and I think it can be very pivotal for you guys, so I hope you will check it out.
Cool, thank you. Going up?
I'm Stuart. I'm writing Lewd Dungeon, Dark Fate, System Supervillain. The OP Lich was the returnee, and Reborn as the first boss. New book of System Supervillain just went on to Amazon, so that's the 9th one in that book, in that series. And my view on AI is don't monetize it. If it's monetized, then you shouldn't have AI in it.
Huh. Mike? You're on mute. At least I can't hear you.
Sorry, guys. Hi, I'm Mike Norris, author of the Primal Age series. 2nd book just released today on Amazon. I'm also the owner of Fables, a LitRPG cultivation magazine. You can find us on Facebook. We write about cultivation and LitRPG news every month, and we share that on the 1st or 2nd of every month, depending on what's going on. So you'll be seeing one about GuildifyCon starting this next month, so it'll be pretty cool. And you can also find me on Patreon at author Michael Norris.
Awesome, thank you for that. And I got Stephen, but I didn't get you guys. You say something over there as well. Yeah, that's great. Totally muted. Greya, we want to hear you.
I really think that it's our job to, as creators, to guide the conversation of AI going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, my name is Robert. I am completely new to writing. As you kind of heard, I'm a tech guy. Did a couple companies and started my first book a year ago, and just finished it off. And it's with the dev editor now, and it's about a spy who jumps into a world with magic and systems and has got to figure all that stuff out. So yeah, that's it. So thanks everybody. Oh, actually, wow, holy cow. I'm like 2 minutes early. This is kind of embarrassing. I'm a new moderator. It's my first day, so somebody say something.
So to answer the question about where can we find Greya's art?
That's a good question.
Currently nowhere, because I don't have any of my art posted, because like I said, my physical art is physical
very
large.
Very large. We need photos.
So unfortunately, hopefully within the next year, you'll be able to read what I'm writing, and that would be my first time writing also. So,
and if you want to read early chapters of my books, they're on Patreon. MIRIKON is my Miricon is my Patreon handle, and for $1 you get to read all the stuff before it goes up to on Kindle Unlimited.
Awesome. Thank you. And again, thanks everybody. This is such a difficult subject to cover. And I think it's really worth time that we spend more time on this and hearing more, because like, for every one person I think that says no to AI, there's probably 10 that say yes. And so what does that mean? And like what happens? So I think this is a good subject to keep hitting on, talking about. And it's interesting, Aileron, you brought up a book that you thought was relevant to that. Could you say what that was again? That was a video?
So it's not a book. It's a 4-part series on Netflix called Blue Zones, basically about living longer and healthier, and looking at 4 different parts of the world where people are living to 100 and doing it with health, not like doing it decrepit. And as we're talking about AI and how it impacts humanity, there's other ways to also increase humanity. I thought it could be helpful to people.
Blue Zones. Awesome. I'll have to check it out. Okay. Well, that's perfect. We're at the hour. So thanks again. I guess we'll call it a wrap.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yep.